Good morning, crime community. I'm here to read out a little more of James Manning's book, Patriotism, Unhinged. Yesterday, James had a stream. He's talking about doing another stream on MM in a couple days. So we won't know for a couple days what Jim's is up to, but we'll find out about MM in a couple days. Eugene Dinkin. Private First Class Eugene Dinkin was a cryptographic code operator stationed in Metz, France. On April 4th, 1963, he went AWOL from his unit and entered Switzerland using forged travel orders and a false army identification card. On November 6th, he appeared in the press room of the United Nations in Geneva and told reporters he had been persecuted. He also told reporters that they were plotting against President Kennedy and something would happen in Dallas. After Kennedy was unalived, a friend of Dinkin's named Dennis DeWitt told military authorities that Dinkin had predicted Kennedy's assassination for November 28th and later changed the date to November 22nd. Dinkins was arrested on November 13th and placed in a psychiatric hospital and later transferred to Walter Reed Hospital, where he underwent various psychological tests before eventually being released. His allegation reached the White House on November 29th and went to the Warren Commission on April of '64. Retelling of the Dinkin story typically note his status as a crypto operator and speculate that he may have learned of an assassination plot, decrypting military communications, perhaps between military plotters and Marseille's assassins. But the FBI reports on Dinkin, including interviews with him conducted in April '64, state that the allegations came about from Dinkin's study of military publications such as Stars and Stripes. Dinkin told the FBI that it was his duty to study of psychological sets and revealed to him both an anti-Kennedy bias as well as a military plot in the works. He would divine the latter, how he could divine the latter, and in particular attach dates and places for the upcoming murder is hard to imagine. One explanation would be that Dinkin indeed learned about a plot through his crypto assignment and that something about his confinement at Walter Reed led him to suppress this in favor of the story the FBI reported. An opening view would, of course, be that he was a paranoid individual who happened to make a lucky guess. One method of determining the truth would have been there and had to have been to interview the military associates to see what he had been about, where ideas came from, including those named by Dinkin and his FBI interviews, PFC Dennis DeWitt, PFC Larry Pullis, Sergeant Walter Reynolds, and R. Thomas. The FBI, after taking these names, does not appear to have followed up on them. The Warren Commission took no interest in the matter and indeed omitted any mention of Dinkin in the reportedly encyclopedic 26 volumes of evidence. Abraham Bolden, the first black man in the Secret Service, hired by President Kennedy. Abraham Bolden joined the Secret Service in 1960. His fateful encounter with JFK was at the Chicago Convention Center in April of '61, where the president arrived for the political event. JFK stopped at the bathroom door and asked Bolden, "Has there ever been a Negro Secret Service agent in the White House detail on Washington, D.C.? When Bolden replied no, Kennedy asked him if he would like to be the first. Bolden was 26 years old. At the White House, Bolden began to notice breathtaking lapses of security that foreshadowed how Kennedy was left as a sitting duck. His Secret Service practically non-existent. Bolden was harassed by his fellow agents because he accused them of missing shifts, drinking heavily on the job, and using their vehicles to transport women and visit bars. Bolden took his concerns to the Secret Service director, James Rowley, but was ignored. One day in the office, Bolden reclined in his chair to answer a call, and looking up, he saw a noose hanging around above the ceiling above him. Bolden believes this led to a demotion back at the Chicago field office after only a few months on the White House detail. On October 63, while Bolden was working on counterfeit cases in the Chicago office, a message came from FBI headquarters that an assassination plot against JFK involving a squad of Cuban exiles had just been uncovered. Two of the suspects were renting a motel room along the route of an upcoming presidential motorcade in Chicago. The plan was foiled when a maid told the motel's manager she discovered several high-powered rifles and maps of the president's November 2nd parade route in one of the rooms. The Secret Service arrested the Cubans and then, astonishingly, were released shortly thereafter prior to JFK's scheduled arrival. According to Bolden, JFK canceled the trip on the morning of November 2nd upon receiving a phone call from the agent in charge of the Chicago Secret Service office warning of the threat, not only from the at-large Cubans, but also tantalizingly from a mysterious ex-Marine with remarkable similarities to Lee Harvey Oswald, soon to be accused assassin of President Kennedy in Dallas. This sound like something that's going on in St. George, Utah? I'm making no comparisons here. Just want to make you think. He was released too, yet marked as a perfect patsy for the assassination plan. After JFK's murder, Bolden was tenacious in getting the Chicago event evidence to the Warren Commission. He was dumbfounded to learn this information about an assassination conspiracy 3 weeks before November 22nd, 63, was not being investigated by the Warren Commission. In May 64, Bolden went to send to Washington for retaining, and the day he arrived, he was pulled out of class and flown back to Chicago due to an emergency back in Chicago. He was driven to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Chicago and taken into custody. He was framed for taking a $50,000 bribe from a government file and sentenced to 6 years in prison, almost killed while there, released after 3 years. It is common knowledge today that it was a setup. On April 26, 2022, President Joe Biden pardoned Abraham Bolden, an 87-year-old who was the first black man to join the Secret Service security detail. We're going to end today, and that's going to leave Elizabeth Cole, which is another setup. George Martinez Soto, another setup. And another setup, Adele Edelson. So do you think there's enough setups in this case? I don't know. I'm just here reading to you. If you think there's any truth into what I'm saying here, please like and subscribe and share, and have a nice day.